Hello, and welcome to our event about exploring career paths in applied neuroscience. In recent years, we've witnessed a major shift in the career paths chosen by neuroscience graduates. More people are now opting for roles in industry over academia, driven by the growing demand for applied neuroscience skills in sectors like leadership, consulting, education, and technology. Applied neuroscience is opening up diverse and impactful career opportunities. And today we are here to explore these paths with a very special guest, Dr. Justin James Kennedy, who is TEDx speaker, a esteemed behavioral neuroscience professor, and a thought leader in neuroleadership. He will guide us through emerging trends, key career paths, and the exciting possibilities ahead in applied neuroscience. So please join us. Make sure to post your questions. We will have a live conversation. It's a great opportunity to communicate and get all your questions answered. And now I would like to give Dr. Kennedy to speak to you. Dr. Kennedy, thank you very much for joining us. And could you share, please, your background and your journey into applied neuroscience, and how did you become involved in applied neuroscience? Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Milena. It feels so exciting to be in your community. So hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be hopefully a really enjoyable time together, Milena. I'm sure it will. So let's start at the beginning. Once upon a time, I was on a motorbike. This is in 1999, so we're going back to last century. I'm riding this motorbike around, don't have a helmet on, and I decide, maybe it's a good idea to buy a helmet. So I go and buy a helmet. I've only ridden the bike a few times without the helmet. It was a little Vespa scooter. Come out of the shop where I bought it. Some drinking driver, some driver had been drinking too much, sideswiped me, hit me off the Vespa into a spiral, or I don't really remember, of course, landed on my head, ended up having a subdural hemorrhage, which I'm sure most people know what that is in the community here. And that led up into me going into a coma. So my journey into neuroscience was on the wrong side of the operating table, Milena. And I mean, it took me some time to recover and to get my faculties back. It took me a long time to walk and talk and think and control my feelings. It was a very traumatic time, of course. Sometimes I still miss words, and sometimes I start breakdancing, but no one believed me. That's from the coma. But the idea is that I got into the neuroscience because I was studying to be a psychologist at the time, and obviously that had to be put on hold. But when I started getting my faculties back, Milena, I started to realize that the mind and the brain weren't the same thing. The brain just wasn't doing what it had to do. The scarring had damaged my Broca area, so clearly my language skills weren't being processed effectively. And I started thinking, if the mechanics aren't working, the mind can't show up effectively. So I got all invested in thinking, what can I do? And I came across the word neuroplasticity, and that's the beginning of the next part of the story, where I got so interested in learning how my brain can kind of rewire itself and what I can and what I can't do. So clearly I got very interested because it ended up many years later being a PhD topic, and that ended up in a professorship here in Switzerland, and it got me very interested in as I continued, got me very interested in what is the point of the brain as a human. And I've come to believe that the reason we are such an intelligent species is not because we can EMC squared things. It's because we can scrum down together. We can do things together. We can build pyramids and palaces. We can build AI. We can build rockets, which you can't really do on your own. You kind of need a community. So being a thriving community has become an important focus. And supporting, and I was going through a coaching process supporting a community, about a dozen or half a dozen PhD candidates. And they were all looking at applied neuroscience from different angles, from neurofeedback and coaching and consulting and neurodiversity, many different areas. And one of them said, we're not actually speaking about neuroscience per se. We are speaking about neuroplasticity, as you always refer to. And I said, yeah, good point. And someone else said, well, if we're all studying neuroplasticity, doesn't that make us neuroplasticians? Milena, the lights went off. We developed a non-clinical credential to be a neuroplastician. We trademarked the word. We've built the competencies. We've got a scientific advisory board, and next year we're going bigger. It is a credential. It's not a qualification. So it is something that you get credentialed based on your expertise as a practitioner. So we're not trying to be academics, but rather pracademics, looking at practical, professional, and pliable plastic tools so that we can facilitate behavior change by understanding what neuroplasticity can and can't do. So that's the short version of everything. Oh yes, I left out one part. A couple of years ago, obviously my brain is now getting a bit older, and I started having some scarring clearly, and I started having epileptic seizures. So now, as much as I believe in neuroplasticity, I also believe in pharmacology. So I'm taking medication and it's working pretty well. But if there's anybody there who's got an opinion on the myelin sheath role in epilepsy, I'd love to hear it because I've got a theory. But I'm not a clinician, and I don't have any specific environments. I'm more in the practitioner space. So that's the short version of the long story. In fact, let me just. It actually was a book, and the book's got such a good title. It's called Brain Reboot. So I think it's a great title. I wish I could bought the website. But Brain Reboot is a book that I wrote. It's about 5 years old now. So some of the science, science is quicker than buying a Big Mac. So you have to keep up. But if any of your listeners want a copy of the book, I'll happily share it with them. If they want that, I can share my email address with them, or they can find me at professorkennedy.com. So we can play with that. But that's the short introduction. I hope I didn't overwhelm everybody, Milena.
No, thank you very much for your introduction. And in fact, your path into neuroscience, applied neuroscience, started with a very difficult time, but you overcame so much and it led you to amazing things. Yes, and becoming neuroplastician and creating the community where people in applied neuroscience can find and develop new skills, open new possibilities for themselves. So thank you very much. And now I also see here two people already who commented. Christina Lyra said a great message, and Alison Mons also joined us, and she says she loves this and she can't wait to become a neuroplastician. Okay, so we have support in our chat already, and thank you everyone who are messaging, who are supporting us, and please send your questions. We are waiting for them. So thank you. Um, so on your path, Dr. Kennedy, you noticed, like you said, students or professionals who were already doing certain applied neuroscience things and building careers in those areas. So my first question is, why do you think this interest in industry-related roles in applied neuroscience is growing? And second, what are those examples that you saw in general that are already becoming prevalent in this field?
I think the experience is that the interest in neuroscience has become so relevant is because we're learning so much about the brain in the laboratory and in the academia environments. And people like to learn in general, it's a human condition, but when it's practical stuff that you can apply, it becomes much more interesting. Today, I saw the launch of Willow. I don't know if you saw what Willow is, Milena. Anyway, Willow is a new quantum uh, qubit platform from Google, which is basically the first quantum computer. It got launched about an hour ago, maybe a day ago, somewhere relatively soon. So go look at Willow. And I was thinking about, you sure, quantum computer sounds amazing, of course. I don't really know what it is, but I've concentrated and there's not really any practical application of it yet. It's going to take another maybe 5 years before you can do anything with it. So it's news, but it's kind of likely I'll forget about Willow unless there's something that I can do with it. And when we look at neuroplasticity, there is something we can do with the science. We can learn that if we are going to have certain events, it's going to have certain consequences. If we don't improve our sleep hygiene, for example, we're not going to be able to learn effectively because the brain's not going to get that deep sleep. It's not going to process that learning, and you kind of might as well just not done any learning. So there's all these applications that are coming out that are so cool. And in the NPN hub, NPN being short for neuroplastician, because nobody can spell that, and the neuroplastician hub, the npnhub.com, is a place where we got people all sharing their interest and all sharing their expertise, but mainly sharing their ability to be learners and experts, to be expert learners. And it makes the environment so interesting. And so much so, we're going to be launching an opportunity for people who are neuroplasticians to actually get revenue generating referrals, basically making money by being a neuroplastician. So it is a community where we all love to kumbaya and hang around and enjoy each other, but it's getting bigger than that. And how big it's going to get, who knows? But the goal is not to get crazy, it's about to get serious about being playful, because we know that the brain learns best under two conditions: under fear or under fun. So, and we prefer the fun side because, post-traumatic stress is a great way to remember the war, but it's not a great way to enjoy your time. So we're very serious about having fun, and we're very serious about building an environment that is respectful of the science. So we can sit on the shoulders of giants in the research labs. So we can sit on the evidence protocols that had been double blinded until the end of meta studies. So we can say, yes, this is based on science. Let's test it with people that are interested in business or in education or in a coaching environment to facilitate their well-being and their performance and their relationships and their diet. I mean, the list just goes on.
Mhm. Can you define who is a neuroplastician? That's question number one. And from what backgrounds people are joining the neuroplastician community, and what are the most prevalent backgrounds that you see?
Okay, brilliant. So the first thing, a neuroplastician is not a magician. Okay, the neuroplastician is someone who has a grasp of the science. They've done some training, maybe they've done some education in something related to neuroscience, specifically neuroplasticity, but not necessary. We want to speak to people who have done some education. It's not where we need to have people who have done a PhD, but we want people to have an understanding of how the brain works. So that's the entry requirement. The other entry requirement is that you know how to facilitate behavior change based on neuroplasticity. So we want to hear stories, we want to see your credentials, we want to be able to make sure that you are eligible based on your practical application. If you are a professor of neuroscience, good for you, but can you facilitate behavior change? That is in line with the science. And that's what we're all about. So people who have a good understanding of the science will slip easily into this environment because there's so much support because we want to learn together. The idea, Milena, is that the neuroplastician credential isn't a training program, it's just a credential. But we have associates with many different training providers, and lots of them are giving away free training in the hub. There are many training providers. In fact, I sent it to you in the chat. We have developed an app called Neurostarter.com. And Neurostarter.com is an app that helps a person know how to apply neuroplasticity through the lens of neurotransmission towards behavior change. So I've opened up the app so anybody on the call can go and register and use it for free. So the app is great fun if you want to nerd out with neurotransmitters. You'll have some fun. But there's also a brief training program inside npnhub.com that makes it more practical and simple to facilitate behavior change. And most of the behavior that we see is emotional, Milena. So we spend a lot of time helping our clients understand the difference between emotion and feeling, because there's a different understanding when we look at the affect of neuroscience and how the brain processes felt experience. You're on mute, I think, Milena. I think you've gone mute. Um, no, you've lost your sound. Anyway,
Yes,
what
yeah.
are you
Mhm.
back? Very good.
Yes, I'm back. I was just posting the link for everyone so that everyone can have a look and see what this app is about. Let me
We're
bring
going to distract them now. They're not going to
this.
talk to us in the chat because it's such an interesting app. All the neuro nerds in the call are going to get lost in that app, and
Yes.
they're never going to come out. So if you found the app, register and but come back to the conversation because that app is like hypnosis. It's like Kool-Aid for the brain.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. And we have already some questions. That's why I was asking about the backgrounds, people from what backgrounds people are coming into the community. And we have a question from Pegah Ramazani. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it correctly, but Pegah Ramazani. And she is saying, thank you so much for such an interesting speech. I'm a PhD student who came from engineering background. What kind of certifications can help me with working as a practitioner?
So the word practitioner is huge. You know, I'm assuming she is speaking about being a neuroplastician or a coach or a consultant or maybe a teacher. A practitioner is such a big word. So for the sake of this conversation, right, I'm going to say in order to be a neuroplastician, you need to do two things. One, have some kind of certificate of training in neuroscience, in applied neuroscience, and you need to have some time practicing, learning, and in the credential for those people who are still new into the application of neuroplasticity, we do have a credential for that person who's still learning. So if you have interest and engagement, you can become a neuroplastician by simply engaging with us. So the idea is not to engage with anybody. It's about engaging with people who are serious about the science, but also serious about being silly and fun and engaging and enjoying the time together. That is such an important part of building an intelligent and healthy community that will sustain itself. Otherwise, it would have been easier just to have gone on holiday somewhere else and met some people there, I suppose.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. And Noam Eckhouse is asking where can you find the link. So I already posted it into the LinkedIn
And
chat
so
under this.
put the link for npnhub.com
Mhm.
because that's where everything comes from. The
Oh,
Institute of Organizational Neuroscience is the institute that hosts the NPN Hub, and that
mhm.
hosts Neurostarter, and it's like a whole ecosystem of stuff now, Milena. But the best place to start is at
Mhm.
npnhub.com. That's just where you'll find everything.
Mhm.
Um, and we've
Yes.
also we've also opened up a free trial month, so encouraging everybody to join for a month. Come and have conversation. Come and learn what it means to be a neuroplastician. In fact, maybe I should give you the link in the chat now. You can drop it in here as well.
Mhm.
The
I
idea,
already, yeah, yeah. I already dropped it. Yes.
the
Yes.
link to it be a neuroplastician.
Yes. Yes. We have a
Is this
link.
one?
Mm-hmm. Also, we have Noam Eckhouse, who was asking about the link, but he is also saying that he is from neuroeducation field. Do you have any examples of people joining you from neuroeducation and how being a neuroplastician or have this knowledge can help people in neuroeducation?
So neuroeducation is a bit like saying oncology. It's huge. It's huge. And when you say neuroeducation, I'm here for the neuroeducation. It sounds like Naomi is saying I'm here for the brain education. There is a whole industry of neuroeducation and educational neuroscience. So then there's a difference between neuroeducation and educational neuroscience. And I'm actually on a faculty with an Australian university where we offer a master's and PhD in educational neuroscience. So if you want to learn about neuroeducation, there is a whole universe of opportunity. But I'm hoping that the neuro education that's coming out of this conversation, Milena, is keeping people interested.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much. And that was my guess that Noam was from the field of neuroscience education, which we refer to as neuroeducation, but maybe he just wants to educate himself about the neuroscience field and applied neuroscience. That's also possible. So, no, if you can provide more information, maybe specific information about you and what's your goal, we can give you more information. Excellent. We also have Sheila Delson, who is saying that your explanations are so well articulated as always, and she's delighted to be with us here today. Yes, so Dr. Kennedy, maybe you can provide some examples of people who joined your community and maybe made some career shift that you witnessed,
Okay.
expanded their opportunities in the field or in a different field.
Okay.
Maybe you
So
have some examples.
there is so many different kinds of people. There are coaches and neuroscientists and teachers and therapists and physicians and educators. Um, there is a very interesting um, professor who's now in France, Leo uh, Kiruch, and he was in neuroscience and he is now practicing as a coach. So he's a good example of a neuroplastician who has moved out of academia and now is functioning in private practice. So the neuroplasticians amongst us are all interested in practical behavior change. That's basically what it's about. And the neuroscience keeps us halal, keeps us kosher when we are trying to do things. We're not talking stuff that isn't effective. So there are many different people speaking about different specialities. There are those speaking into the area of neurodiversity. There are those speaking into neuro leadership. There are those speaking into neurofeedback. And in half an hour, we are having a very exciting conversation with a pediatrician who has now become a coach. And she has now specialized in psychedelics. So we're going to speak about neuroplasticity and psychedelics in the next call. So if you can't make it, Milena, I won't judge you. But everybody else, if you go onto npnhub.com and sign up, you can come to the next call depending on how much time you have. But there's so much, it's like a it was it started out as a tennis club, Milena. It started out as a little community with these PhD candidates. And before you know, we're all playing not at the tennis club, but we're playing at the Wimbledon finals. And we realized, this is going to take off and it's getting lots of attention and it's making a lot of practical sense and the clients are getting great results. But in order to stay effective as a community and to keep the not for profit ethos in the community, it is important that we treat this place as a clubhouse, not a jailhouse. It needs to be a fun place to come hang out. You don't have to feel forced. You want to come and learn and you want to come and share. So, Milena, I'd really like to ask your audience to really tell me about their work and let's speak about having them on the podcast. Let's speak to people if they want to build their profile in the neuroplastician area where they learn how to coach, where they learn how to consult, where they learn how to facilitate neuro based feedback. Sorry, my alarm's going off for some reason. And that's the whole idea, is to get that conversation going. That's the whole story.
Yes, and this is what we are doing right now. We got some clarification from Noam Eckhouse, and he says, "Thank you for this. I built a neuroscience curriculum for K-12 students using creative methodologies and science based, of course. And he would like to know how to apply these programs."
Sure. I mean, it's so hard to answer the question like that without enough information, Milena. So I need to like understand like what he's actually doing because it sounds like he's doing great stuff. How much he is resting on the science of the brain. I mean, it's impossible to say from here, but obviously there is some simple things about the brain, especially as a child. I mean, I don't think it ever changes. We're all children at heart. But when you are educating children, it's very important to remember the brain is a sprinter, not a marathon runner. The brain does well in short bursts. And it's really important to watch the energy and the concentration levels of children. And also, I think another important part is nutrition, because if children are eating sandwiches and chips and pasta and uh, and carbo heavy drinks, they're not going to be able to concentrate. They're going to struggle. So what they put in is what you get out of your education. So like getting the basics right, which I call the season model, Milena, getting sleep hygiene correct, getting exercise effectively in a sprinting mode, getting to understand affect, emotion, feeling, mood, understanding effective neuroscience basically. The next S is for social intelligence, getting people to learn together, getting communities to solve problems. I went to school and we never had to solve problems together. But if you get children to think and solve problems together, it just pumps up the intelligence so effective. And the O in the season model stands for outdoors. Get outdoors. It makes the learning just exponentially quantum quality education. And that is so important to help the brain find a sense of awe, AWE. When you're in nature and you're around beauty, it's easy to just be amazed just by nature. You go for a swim in the ocean and you just realize how amazing this is. You go for a walk in the forest and you just realize how beautiful nature is. A quick story before I get to the last end is that a couple of months ago we were walking wherever, it doesn't matter, and I was saying something to my wife, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw. So I looked around, and it was a rainbow, but it wasn't any rainbow. It was a rainbow. It was a rainbow as big as the whole sky. Like basically, it was right behind us. It was so big, and we didn't say anything to each other. We just stood there and looked at this spectacle, this this beautiful experience. So building that into the learning just makes it memorable. I'm telling a story now. It feels like I remember it yesterday. Getting those emotions engaged makes a huge difference. And the last N in the model is for nutrition. Eat less wherever you are. If you're growing, obviously not when you're a child. Learn what fasting means. It's not that hard. And don't drink alcohol ever, which is impossible. So just try to drink less. So the, the idea around learning what to do with the brain, those were all the fundamental foundations, just to know what you need to know to get the basics right. But once you got that in place, then you then can go on and do magnificent things with your clients. Speak to them about their leadership skills, speak to them about their relationship skills, speak to them about their cognitive abilities, how they can improve their educational provision, improving their fluid intelligence, improving the general intelligence. And you can see I can really go on, Milena. I'm very passionate about this area.
Yes, thank you so much. Great suggestions. And we have some comments and questions. So Christina Leira says that I fully support Dr. Kennedy's work. So you're very supportive, Dr. Kennedy.
Christina is amazing. She has a background working with the Navy SEALs, and she's got a specialist PhD, and she has you gotta have on your podcast. She's just amazing. You must definitely chat to Christina. She will rock the house for you for sure. Hi, Christina.
Christina, yes, thank you so much for your comments, and you are cordially invited to join your careers podcast. So I hope
Yeah.
you will come and share your
Yeah.
experience.
I can see Pega or Noam is asking where they can find out about the neuroplastician credential. I've dropped it in the chat there for you, Milena. I don't know but if you go to npnhub.com, you can find it, and I've dropped the specific link in to find out how to engage in the neuroplastician credential. It's not a training program, please remember. It is a credential based on your training. If you want to be trained in being a brain-based coach or a neuro education specialist, we've got hundreds of practitioners and training institutes that can help you. So come to the hotel. There's a buffet on the brunch of opportunities.
Yes, yes, and I've been there, and it's really difficult to decide what you should do because there is so much, and there are lectures and lectures every day. There are some talks, several talks a day, a very vibrant community, and everyone can find what they're looking for sure. So Pega, you are very welcome there. And if you have questions, I'm sure Dr. Kennedy will be happy to guide you throughout
Yeah,
that
of course.
process. Mhm.
Of
And
course.
Dr. Kennedy, we see a very big interest in neuroscience, applied neuroscience recently, like we already talked. And because of that, there is a big misuse of this word as well. Yes, so some people are using it even though there is not much really scientific background behind the things that they're doing. How does your community ensure that all the programs are really legit, that you are keeping that high bar of having science behind all the certifications that are happening in your community?
Um, the first thing is being skeptical when something new emerges. There are so many neuromyths out there. There's so much junk. There are so many spin doctors and snake oil merchants trying to say neuro this and neuro that, and it's a bit creepy. So we've built a big wall around the NPN hub so that if you're a spin doctor or a a trickster, we won't give you the key and we won't give you the code. So I won't give you the code now because we don't want you to get in case you're not part of the spin team. But the idea is really to make sure that if people are saying stuff, they are speaking about the brain and what the current research is saying. The triune brain was a thing once, but that work is a little bit, a little bit, uh, a little bit re-understood. I read a really good paper on the limbic system and what's been happening in that model recently. I'm not a neuroanatomist. other than my own brain scarring and rebooting. It's so interesting how different models of network neuroscience are becoming more important than the neuroanatomy. So when we look at how these fibers influence, the brain generically, it is very interesting. Not to say that neuroanatomy isn't important, of course it is, but it's interesting to see how all roads lead to Rome.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for mentioning neuromyths. Actually, we started a neuromyths debunked or brain myths debunked podcast. So
Nice.
yes, and we would like to include as much as possible there. So, if you or any of our listeners would like to debunk some myths in this area, please contact me, and I will be happy to have you on the podcast. Because like you said, I think it's very important to make sure that we really know the science behind the things, and not just use this word neuro just to use it to get more attention to the things people do. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you
yeah.
for that, Dr. Kennedy. And what is the most prevailing myths in neuroplasticity world that you witnessed so far?
The the biggest, let me just think, there's so much. The biggest myth around neuroplasticity, I think there's so much. The first myth was that there was no neuroplasticity, but the biggest myth about neuroplasticity, I think it is that I think the biggest myth is that we have like this empty brain and we're only using 10% of the brain, and we can now just learn and we can just fill the brain with amazing amounts of information. Everything in the brain is being used. It's not like this empty ship for Noah and the ark to go around and fill with animals. It's already doing stuff, but it doesn't mean there isn't space to build new connections for new neurons to build that new relationship. And I think there's two things that I really love to speak about on this. One is that de-neuroplasticity. Obviously, that's not a word. Maybe you can help me find the real word, Milena, but unbundling their pathways. Like, for example, if you love Nutella, I mean, it's obviously not nature's healthy Garden of Eden nutrition. Obviously, if you're eating too much Nutella, it's going to have a dosing effect on your brain because you're going to get all that sugar, and the brain loves sugar. And secondly, it's going to have an impact on your concentration and on your weight. So if you think that the brain is just going to be able to switch off and just stop wanting Nutella, so it's completely rubbish. You need to unbundle those pathways. You need to build new habits. And I think that it's important to know from the myth point of view is that there are seasons, or there are phases in your life when your brain is going to be more plastic, and when it's going to be doing more pruning, and when it's going to be more effective. So, it's not like your brain is just waiting for new information. You've got to get rid of the junk before you can fill your trunk. So, getting rid of stuff is as important as getting new stuff in.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kennedy. And we have Pega Ramazani asking, NPN Hub is totally virtual, or
Totally
maybe
virtual.
yes.
We're thinking of having a conference in in you're in Florida, Milena. That's right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm speaking to somebody else. I think Sheila. Yes, Sheila, you here. So maybe between you and Sheila, we can organize a conference in Florida next year. So, Pega, there's intentionally no physical space because we want to make this easy for everybody to access. We're only still young. We're less than 2 years old. So we haven't had any. I mean, everybody I've met, I haven't actually met. Um, I'm having a meeting with someone in February, which will be the first person I've actually met. Actually, I've met one or two people, I must be honest, but mainly everybody I've only met virtually, and it seems to work really well. Who would have guessed, huh?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So you're planning on in-person events in the future, as I understand, just as an answer to Pega. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully, you never know.
Oh,
But we had a conference last year, but it was an online conference, and it was excellent. It was so amazing. We had so many incredible speakers that were interested in supporting us. So many academics and so many researchers and authors and practitioners, from hypnotherapy to psychedelics to diversity to neurodiversity. So hopefully this year we'll do the same. Maybe Florida. You never know.
mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. And Sheila Delson is saying, JJ, were you thinking about neuron pruning, where the old neuron habit weakens when we replace the behavior with new neuron development towards improved habit changes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think
Mm-hmm.
that I have to say yes to that. I don't know what else I can say.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a question about behavioral neuroscience specifically. And the model is very simple. What you change in your behavior will change your brain, and what you change in your brain will change your behavior. So it's not like your brain is sitting somewhere in the laboratory waiting for electricity to be zapped through it. Your brain is your body. Your brain is your flesh and your bones and your eyes and your physical experience. The brain doesn't feel pain, but it does know how to process that pain. And your body can have that feeling, and your mind can have that feeling when you not having something great, but also can have great things as well.
Yes, and Sheila just corrected and said she meant neuron synaptic pruning. Yes, this is just to be clear on what she meant.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. And as we talked at the beginning, that there is this demand for opportunities joining a field with the applied neuroscience,
Hmm.
and there is a demand, and you are definitely are responding to that demand, creating this neuroplastician community. How else do you see, in general, our world is responding to this need? And how do you see this development in the future for career development in applied neuroscience?
The people that are in your environment, Milena, are people that are skilled in neuroscience from whatever disciplines they come in. And obviously, there's many subdisciplines within the category of neuroscience. But if any of those people are interested in being in an environment that is not clinical or not academic, they they want to speak to the neuroplasticians. They will want to speak to how they can apply their skills in environments that are more in a consulting practitioner coaching neuroplastician environment where they can apply their skills in in professional and personal development environments. So if anyone's listening about how they would like to help others improve their brains, this is the place to go where you can learn those pracademic jewels and skills and learn how we can collaborate to build more and more opportunities for people to understand their own brains so that they can make changes that sustain new habits. Because if you don't sustain habits, the neural pathways don't turn into highways, they stay as walkways in the forest rather than making a big change. So that's the request, Milena. We should maybe have an event. Meg, this is a good idea. What do you think about we invite all your community to come to an event in the NPN Hub, to invite them to hear about what we do and get some of the cool people like Sheila and Christina to come and share their expertise so that we can show them around the zoo if they want to come and have a look. You've gone on to mute, Milena. I don't know, your microphone is like
Yes,
mine yesterday.
yes, Dr. Kennedy. I think that's a great idea. Let's organize the event and we will
Of
invite
course.
everyone to join us. And thank you very much for all this information. I know there is so much information we cannot really provide it all
Mm,
in this one short event, but we welcome everyone to join NPN Hub. They can also explore an app, and if they have any questions, they can always contact you. Maybe you can provide your contact information. I will also
yeah.
post it into a
The
chat.
easiest way to find me is the
LinkedIn.
emails come straight through me. If you just go to professorkennedy.com. I know it's a long name, but it's easy to remember
Uh-huh.
if you can spell with professor with all the S's. So
Mhm.
go to professorkennedy.com and emails will come through and I will get back to you.
Very good, excellent. I will also, yes, professorkennedy.com. I have it already and I added it into our chat. And also, very importantly, I added a link to your podcast that we recorded on NeuroCareers with you so that people can learn even more about all the work that you are doing and opportunities to join the field and expand options for career development. So thank you so much, Dr. Kennedy, and I am looking forward to our next events and virtually and in person. So thank you
Let's
so
go
much.
Florida. Let's go Florida. I love it.
Let's do
Let's have
it.
a party. We can definitely have some fun. And thank you everybody for joining. Pega and Christina and Noam and Sheila, everybody else. It's really nice to have connected with you. And I prefer conversation, so let's have a round table in the NPN Hub. Milena, we need to speak more about your work in the NPN Hub because lots of people are curious since our last call as well. So we need to build on that.
Yes, definitely. I'm always happy to speak. Such a wonderful environment. I'm always open, and I thanked you, and I also want to thank to all our listeners today for all the questions, all the comments. Sheila is saying "game on," so she's on with the plans. Thank you very much, Sheila. So everyone, thank you for watching, and I also want to remind you that I offer free career sessions to anyone who is interested. So please go to neuroapproaches.org and you can schedule a free session or contact me on LinkedIn. So we're all happy to help you on your career development journey. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. And
Thank you.
uh, till next events. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much, everybody. No, we'll see you in Florida, but first at npnhub.com, my friend. We want to hang out. Take care until then, everybody. Thanks so much, Milena.
Thank you. And Hanna Lishkevich is saying, thank you for insightful talk. Thank you for attending, Hanna. It's great pleasure. Thanks. Bye
Thanks.
bye.